A very good evening and welcome to all the participants. We are extremely happy to welcome you for this 99th leadership conversation. And this evening, we are extremely happy to have Mr. Shrikant Sinha. Please join me in welcoming sir. Welcome, sir, once again. We are honored with your presence and we would love to learn from you about this extremely important topic. For the benefit of all the participants, sir, allow me to share my screen. I will do a brief introduction and then hand it over back to you for your opening remarks. Yeah, this is WiseViews Leadership Conversation Series, which we host every Friday at 6:30 p.m. And over the last close to 2 years now, we have completed 98 we have completed, and this is the 99th leadership conversation with Mr. Shrikant Sinha. We are going to talk about getting to outcomes in employability, what has worked and what has not. So this intro and talk will be up to 7 p.m. roughly, and subsequent to that, we'll have Q&A session in 2 clusters, and then we'll sum it up. It's my pleasure and a great opportunity to introduce Mr. Shrikant Sinha. I respect him and admire him for his work on the ground. I have had the opportunity of meeting him across various conferences, seminars, and discussion opportunities as well. As the CEO of TASK, Mr. Sinha's major role is to enhance the employability for the youth in Telangana under the Department of ITENC, Government of Telangana. He has been responsible for onboarding government degree colleges and polytechnics, multiple industry partners with well-enhanced offerings at TASK. His priority has been to increase focus on the rural areas of the state, as well as to promote skilling and placement of girls and the underserved communities. With the onset of the COVID pandemic, he has been spearheading the transition of conventional training programs to virtual, both online and blended mode, and initiated series of webinars on various subjects. The several other elite roles that he had donned and he continues to don. He is also an executive council member for the JNTU, which is India's leading technical university. He is a member of AVGC Subtask Force for the Media and Entertainment Skill Council. He is also a committee member of FICCI, which is a very big, popular industry association. He is an eminent speaker at national and international forums. He is also the advisory council member for Digital Safety and Security Program. Prior to joining TASK, he was the CEO of NASSCOM Foundation, which is the social development arm of the Indian IT BPM industry body, that is NASSCOM, where he led the Tech for Good movement in the country for a little over 4 years. Prior to joining NASSCOM Foundation, he was based out of Malaysia, working as Head Corporate Learning, APAC and MENA regions. He also worked with the Global Next University, formerly U21 Global, a leading online graduate school, helped thousands of people working in corporates across Asia Pacific, the Middle East, and North African regions with limited or no access to good quality academic programs. He is a student. He was a student of computer applications and physics from Delhi University. Earlier in his career, Mr. Shrikant had played a pivotal role in the success of AppTech in India, in Latin America, and the Middle East. With this brief introduction, I once again welcome Shrikant sir to this conversation. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Sudhakar. Indeed, a pleasure for me to be present amongst all the gathering today, the August gathering. And in fact, it's heartening to know that ICFAI has done these webinars, and this is the 99th one. And typically they say, when you are just about to complete a century, it becomes most critical. And I'm extremely happy that you have taken this kind of a topic today, which is very, very important, for the youth of the country itself. So probably what I would do is, and of course, I would like to thank you for such a wonderful introduction. I wish my mother-in-law, late mother-in-law, was sitting in the audience. She would have realized what a good son-in-law she has. Well, on that note, let me share my screen. And as has been mentioned, when we talk about employability, I think it's a paradigm which is yet to be solved. There is no right answer, no wrong answers. But probably during the next 20, 25 odd minutes, half an hour, I'll try to put some of my thoughts across on what has worked, what has not worked, And then, of course, we move into the question answers. So, Sudhakar Garu, you can be the timekeeper, and Dr. Prasad, thank you for inviting me for this session. I think if we look at the employability aspects from a different side, from the supply side, and if we look at it, our current education system, I think this is exactly what happens. As parents, we tell our children, eat this, it is good for you. When the children move into school, it is memorize it. There'll be a recitation test at the end of it. So you have to learn by rote. When you come into the college, it is from the examination point of view, this is very, very important, therefore you must do it. And by the time the person joins the industry, gets an employment and joins the industry, the first thing he's told is think for yourself. We haven't taught the student throughout his entire career, be it at home or in the educational institution, to think for himself. And that is probably the first step that needs to change itself. What has worked, of course, we know that if the industry is doing well. We are about to reach $3 trillion now, or in fact, we have surpassed $3 trillion, and we are aiming for $5 trillion economy very soon, and so on and so forth. So definitely things have worked where our education system is concerned, but will it work in the future? Will it move in the direction where it is? We have seen 2 years ago, 3 years ago, the pandemic coming in, but if we look at the trends itself, and for this, I think the report that I would like to refer to, and which is my kind of a Bible for whenever I talk about employability, etc., is the VBox India Skills Report, which is very, very important, which talks about not only the skilling, the job requirements and the industry, etc. And that's where I depend on it a lot. And I would like to share some statistics from the 2023 report itself. In fact, what they did this year was they said that since they have been into operation over the last 6 years, they have come up with a trend where they are saying that, while in 2017, employability ratios are about 42.44%, which has gone up and expected to reach 50.3% this year itself. Last year, it was 46, of course. During the pandemic, 2022, 2021, we had seen a dip in it. In some of the sectors, of course, we know it was more in terms of tourism and hospitality, etc., which took a beating over there. But overall, if we look at it, the trends have been approximately, I think this year is the first year where there'll be enough number of jobs in India, and I'm talking about India right now, while the global scenario is quite different with a lot of layoffs, etc., happening across the globe. I think India is fairly stable and on a strong wicket, and we are talking about just above 50% employability happening in the country. Looking at across disciplines and what kind of people the industry is employing, you'll be quite surprised to see that the largest requirement of people, and this is for people, and of course, ICFAI being having started as a finance-based university, I think it'll be music to your ears, is because BCom is surpassing everything and is close to 60%, 61% in fact. The BCom graduates are being employed. So, all these students and the young friends who are attending this, who are from the commerce background, I think it's good news that you are in demand and you will be in demand, and you need to ensure that you are able to get the right kind of job opportunities. If you look at MBAs, again, a lot of organizations are preferring MBAs also. And if we look at pharmacy and engineering, it is practically equivalent. And if you look at Telangana, I think, as you know, the sunrise sectors for Telangana are the IT, ITES, BPM industry, plus pharma industry, being more than about 40% of world's vaccine being manufactured over here. I think this is where the whole thing is. Polytechnic right now is not the flavor of the month. People are not looking at it. But if you look at Telangana, and I will discuss a model later on, which we ran, where we looked at how Polytechnic students can get better employment opportunities. So if you look at arts also, you have a lot of people, because today storytelling, story writing, a lot of content development, etc., is also happening, and that's where a lot of students are going over there. So 49.2%, just below 50. MCA, unfortunately, the industry is not looking at them too highly right now, and some of them are also moving into entrepreneurship, etc. So that's where the scenario of more employable talent is concerned. Looking at the sectors all across these years, I think I will talk about 2020 onwards, because that's where changes have been seen from the manufacturing, etc. industry, which was there earlier, which was substantially high, with work from home kind of paradigms coming in. Banking, financial services, because a lot of organizations were shipping their work back to India, because whenever you have any challenge, for example, right now, US and other European countries, etc., are supposed to be having some kind of dip in the economy over there, and they are talking about probably recession coming in. In fact, it was predicted in March and April recession, and we saw a couple of banks going under. About it's been predicted that 189 banks in US are going go under. But if you look at India, I think we are doing quite well. In 2020, we established ourselves. We further consolidated our position as far as the business process management and the knowledge process management industries was concerned. And a lot of business, because onshore business becomes expensive, near shore, which is Latin America, etc., also becomes expensive. Hence, a lot of work started coming back to India. And that's where BFSI industry, which is, if you look at it today, and Hyderabad today is the back office of the banks, the entire financial sector, the back office for that is Hyderabad and Telangana. And that's where a lot of recruitments happened in the BFSI industry, software industry, a lot of semiconductor and other things. Because of China, people were looking at other opportunities, and India being one of the options. Moving ahead, you will see a lot of roles coming up in hardware and internet businesses also. Last year, we also saw a lot of pharma recruitments happening in BFSI. In fact, just to put on record, I think this year, out of the 4,000 plus 4,800 odd direct recruitments that Task has done, I think about 30% would be ITES, and about 35% would be also pharma recruitments which have happened. Moving ahead, it is also predicted that by the time 23 ends and 24 starts, a lot of automotive people will also be required, but this will not be the traditional automotive engineers. They will be people who would be fueling the EV segment, which is supposed to be reaching about 30% of the worldwide vehicles by 2030. And that's where things are moving, of course, with a lot of new technologies coming in. And here, I think it's prudent to mention that while Industrial Revolution 3.0 was led only by internet, when we talk about 4.0, it's a host of technologies, 10 technologies coming together on the platform, which is the 5G platform, and the connectivity that we are talking about, cloud, AI, ML, all these things are coming to the virtual reality or extended reality, plus 3D printing or additive manufacturing, as it is called. All these various things coming in together is going to change the entire requirement of students as they move ahead. So the automobile engineer over here that I'm talking about should be aware about cybersecurity, because anyone can hack your audio system in your car if it's connected on 5G, etc., and hear where you are going for your evening dinner. Anyone, because it's fleet learning and high-speed internet connectivity, cybersecurity becomes more important. You would have people who would understand fuel cells. So chemistry is important. Chemical reactions are important. You need to understand the powertrain itself. So as a result of which you need to understand mechanical engineering also. So if you look at the new curriculum, it's quite different than whatever has been taught traditionally in our schools. And that's where I think we need to change things. If we look at the states where maximum supply of employable talent is there across years, I think Uttar Pradesh, Maharashtra, and Delhi are also stepping up now, but traditionally, whatever you see in the blue are the areas where a lot of resources are there. I think one thing, being prudent, I would like to mention over here that sometimes while the ASER report is quite a good report, but sometimes they do the mistake of clubbing Telangana under Andhra Pradesh. So apologies for that, but yes, that's where it is. It's also heartening to see that, if you look at it, the percentage of women who are employable and who are participating in the workforce right now is also increasing over the years, which is actually good. Because if I look at task itself, out of the students who are registered with us, who are benefiting from our programs, etc., which is more than 264,000 plus, 47% plus of them are women or girls. And that's the trend which will continue, where a lot of diversity and inclusion would be coming into the workforce itself, which also makes it important because productivity also goes up in such cases. Looking at engineering courses, because that's a major thing where people look at the first preference for most of the industries today, be it IT or manufacturing, etc., is engineers. And therefore, if we look at it, I think IT, if you look at it, pure IT, it is 65%, which is quite high over there. And computer science 62.67, electronics communication 60.1, electrical engineering 58, mechanical, civil are lower in the order. In fact, they don't even meet the 50% mark. And if I look at our own state itself right now, which is Telangana, and look at the employability over there, the education figures for engineering, 94% out of the 62,000 seats that got filled in last year, 94% of them are from computer science, information technology, and the electronics and electrical engineering fields itself. If you look at, again, all this is the ASER report that I'm sharing with you, and I think it is very important because as things are changing, and we spoke about it offline, Sudhakar Garu, where you spoke about the available skills in English language, because I think that is a key thing where a lot of us feel that while students, and probably it's across India, the similar terms would be there, probably not so much in metros, but definitely in tier 2, tier 3, where if you look at it, about 40 to 50% would be the national average, where our students, their parents have never gone to any college. About 40 to 50% of the students in our colleges, their parents haven't been to one. And that's where it becomes important for mentoring the students also. So I think employability should not be based only on herd mentality. Like a couple of years ago, at TASK, we saw 17,642 students applying for 200 jobs at Infosys, right? And we come from a standpoint where we feel that it's important that apart from for example, if you can't stand the sight of blood, should you become a doctor or join the armed forces? Now, that's a simple question that people need to ask. When they are joining any job, etc., is that industry of interest to me? Is that domain of interest to me? Is that important for me? And if we look at it, I think India definitely has got a large pool of English as the second language, and hence it is good. Definitely, most of the students in Telangana also and across most of the part of India are able to understand English, but communicating back is a challenge for them. And that's where initiatives are being taken to enhance the employability skills of the students. Now, looking at the top 10 states with numerical reasoning, which is again very important. I think Telangana, Andhra Pradesh, etc., are again top over there. And if you look at critical thinking, this time they have put Telangana separate, but yes, Telangana has got a lot of people who are able to understand problems, are able to critically analyze them and come up with solutions. And I think that is a key thing that we need to ensure that our students moving ahead are able to understand. Computer skills, I think it's a no-brainer. It is very, very important, especially given the fact that we are talking about business transformation coming up in a major way, so that we have the entire industry, which is undergoing this rapid business transformation, which got accelerated due to the pandemic, is able to take benefit of it. Where do people like to work? I think looking at the male preference of males, it's Bangalore, Hyderabad, Pune, Chennai, Coimbatore, Delhi, NCR, and that order. And if you look at the female candidates, again, it is quite similar in nature itself. So basically, if you look at it, Bangalore and Hyderabad are leading the numbers over there. And as that this year, in fact, if you looked at last year, when we looked at it, the number of jobs that were created in Bangalore vis-a-vis Hyderabad surpassed the numbers of jobs created. It was the #1 job creator for IT and ITS industry last year. Now, what are the industries where employability can be driven, where employability can be done? Sorry if you are not able to read the font, but yeah, I think we look at the highest, which is automotive. And as I said this year, a lot of people would be coming up in automotive industry itself. When we look at BFSI, which is again a large segment, but engineering manufacturing is growing up. It is coming back into focus. And over here, we would be talking about IR 4.0, industrial Internet of Things, and other things also coming in. Internet business will continue to rise, especially when given the fact of that metaverse and other things are also coming up. And the demand for freshers in this is going to go up. Pharma and healthcare, and of course, after automotive, the next one, which is supposed to be there, is software, hardware, and IT. So that's where the people who are about to graduate in the next 1 year or are graduating, in the next couple of months, and if you haven't got a campus placement, I think you should try to identify some of the skills which would fit into this industry. Of course, I think it's a no-brainer that today artificial intelligence, cloud, etc., at least awareness is a requirement for employability across industries. Now, if we look at demand for professionals with about 1 to 5 years experience, you can see that it's quite different. With others and diversified, which is for freshers 14% only, goes up to 48% in 2022 and 50% in 2023, sorry. So that's typically how the growth is. If you look at software, it's 38%, and that's typically how this would be moving. So people who are in the 1 to 5 years bracket, as far as their experience is concerned, again, you need to, you might be skilled earlier in different technologies. I think it's prudent for me to also mention over here that earlier it used to be a T-shaped. Whenever we spoke about, the entire skilling area, we used to talk about T, which is, a lot of things, you're aware about a lot of technologies, etc. But your expertise used to be in a vertical, in one single domain. And that is what used to be the structure of it. But now moving ahead, it has changed, and you have the T moving to a pie, where you have a couple of things. You're aware about a lot of technologies, a lot of domains, etc., etc. And you have a domain knowledge also, but other side, you also need to have IT, artificial intelligence, machine learning, these kind of skills also. So the pie would be there now, moving from a T, it is moving to a pie. And that's where it is. You also would need to have skills like the 21st century skills and other things, which I'll just talk to you in a minute. So if we look at it, I think today, what is important is what will fuel the employability for the future. And over here, I have chosen cardio intentionally. Of course, the poor student or the tortoise is being propelled right now into multiple directions. But yes, what will be most important, and over here I am now referring to the McKinsey report. They have identified 56 what they called as deltas, or skills that are required for employability for the future in 13 different domains. And some of them, basically, you can classify them. And of course, this also sits on top of the 21st century skilling model, transferable skills that UNDP and UNICEF, etc., was talking about. And of course, World Economic Forum also spoke about in a couple of years ago, which needs to be imbibed in everyone's curriculum itself. So you had life and career skills. You had, the four C's, which is critical thinking, communication, collaboration, creativity. And of course, ICT was most, again, important. And that's where it was said that from schools onwards, we would be developing it. I'm extremely happy to note that, India came up with the NEP, New Education Policy 2020. And when the policy came up, it has also got a lot of things. Today, if you look at it, some of the states have started setting up skills universities, right? My question over there to these universities is that why do you want to create another competition for the existing universities? What should the student choose? Instead of that, I think it's imperative that skilling becomes part of each and every curriculum across universities, across colleges, so that all students are able to take benefit out of it. The existing universities like Vishwakarma University, etc., probably one of the first universities, I think they can play the role of a lighthouse. They have created models which are successful models, and these models can be replicated. They could become the watchdog. Of course, I think it's very important that things like NCVET have come into play. Today, we are talking about a lot in terms of the apprenticeship and internship. I think it's important, and I think it has been working in the past in different domains and across the globe. If you look at it, when you ask me what works in employability, I think Germany became a manufacturing superpower because of only one program, which is the TVET program, or the vocation, education and training, where a student actually does the education in the industry itself. And that is very, very important. I think today, if you look at us, we have been professing about apprenticeship. Of course, our students don't find it sexy enough to go and join as an apprentice after doing their 4 years of the engineering or their MBAs or whatever else. But please remember, dear friends, that no one hires you for knowing the definition of a screwdriver, but you should have actually used one. And that is where it becomes most important, that how you are able to gain that knowledge while you are doing an internship or an apprenticeship, preferably in the industry itself. Looking at all the skills that we spoke about, how a student can be recruited today, and what are the chances of a student being recruited today, I think the most important skill is adaptability and learnability. That becomes one of the key skills that is there. You should be also, because we live in a VUCA world where we don't know what could happen the next minute. Like COVID happened, COVID-1, COVID-2 was even worse. So coping with uncertainty, being adaptive, being agile becomes very, very important. Achievement orientation, energy, passion, optimism, working in digital collaboration, because you could have gig economy workers with you, you could have virtual teams working, and you would have this hybrid model of work from home plus work from office kind of a thing. So self-control regulation is also very, very important. And that's what will help you get jobs moving ahead. Would you like me to continue about task right now, or?
Yeah, I think we can go for the Q&A, sir.
Sure.
Yeah, I think there's. Yeah, thank you, sir. Thank you very much for these opening remarks. I think you have painted this landscape with a lot of data for us, so pertinent, so relevant for us, because this is a very important topic for not just education institutions. It is important for the youth, which is the prime mover in the journey of the nation currently, and also for the governments and for other stakeholders. This is an extremely important topic that we deal with, and we take this forward. We are very happy to have you, a person no less than Mr. Shrikant Sinha, who is talking about this employability and skills, with which you dealt for a long time over the last, say, a couple of decades in a focused manner. And some of the inputs that you have shared through your opening remarks are so pertinent. How is it moving across domains and specializations and market segments where the opportunities are available in big numbers? I think that perspective has come. And in the question and answer session, probably we will dig deeper. Some of the leaders who are present today, not just representing the education industry, they are there definitely. I can see their names. I welcome all of them who have joined. We have senior representatives from industry as well who have joined to understand how it is moving and what are the focus areas and responsibilities for industry representatives as well. I am pretty sure that several other members will watch this video once we upload it on our archives, which we do every time. At their convenient time, they go back and see this from our archives. I'm sure many government folks as well would love to follow the conversation that we are having this evening. I would love to conserve the time, and we'll focus straight away on the Q&A, sir.
Sure.
I request Professor R. Prasad to initiate the Q&A first cluster, and after that, I'll come back to the second cluster. Over to you, Professor Prasad. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Rao. Sir, you have given us a wonderful overview of the direction in which we are heading, as well as where the opportunities are. Let me now start with a personal question, because employability and career mapping is as relevant, and you have followed a certain journey. Now, if you look back at what you have done, you've got Aptech, you've got Global Next, you've got NASCOM Foundation, now you've got Task. So how do you see, because employability is not a concept relevant only for fresh graduates, it's as much for the working population.
Yes.
So what are your insights here for the audience? Because many of them are working executives, are in their profession. So how do you see the career journey and employability in the context of that career journey, key skills which take you to higher levels of satisfaction, higher levels of achievement, taking your background as a case?
Sure. Thank you very much for that question. A very interesting question and an important question. I agree with you. I think the first thing which we need to realize is what is our passion. what drives us, what motivates us. I think that's the key thing. And for me, I was able to realize that impacting lives is something that has always been a driver for me, be it in terms of AppTech, where I had multiple roles, and thankfully I had some wonderful colleagues with me who were part of this journey along with me. But one thing which I'd like to mention over here is that I think during our day and age, people used to think that 17 plus 4 plus full stop is the way of life. Unfortunately, or fortunately for me, I realized it earlier on itself that it is not 17 plus 4 plus a full stop, but 17 plus 4 plus 40. So it is lifelong learning. And that becomes very, very important. That how do you skill yourself, unskill yourself, reskill yourself, upskill yourself. In fact, I was one of those fortunate enough people to work with punch cards because my father was from the computer field itself, and he used to head the center at India Meteorological Department. So even in my 10th, I used to write programs in Fortran and COBOL, helping him debug things. And that is probably where my interest also got into the IT industry, and I was able to take it forward during my job at AppTech itself. Initially, I was a corporate faculty also, where I got exposed to some of the topmost people, including Vishnu Hari Dalmia of the Dalmia Group of Industries, Mr. Bruce Irwin, the managing director of Goodyear, and so on and so forth. So I think those were some of the things which helped me understand that, whatever I have done is just the tip of the iceberg, and there is so many things more to do. So constant, being a quick learner, as I said, agility, adaptability, right, learnability are the skills which have stood the test of time and continue to do so even now. In fact, if you would you have seen my presentation, I've again spoken about these skills because these are very important. But for me, the journey was the IT industry, training, skilling. I think today, if you ask me very frankly, it is not the top institutions of IITs, etc. Of course, they were the people who created Silicon Valley. But if you look at the actual bodies that created the people were the AppTechs and the NITs of the world, which turned out and churned out a lot of people. And of course, colleges such as ICFAI and others, who turned out a lot of people who were able to fuel this industry with the right kind of skills. And that was what was most important. When I moved to U21 Global, at that time, .com had just burst, and people were talking about e-commerce in only whispers. And that was the time when I decided to move into an online university, which was set up by some of the topmost universities in the world. And I was fortunate enough because over there, I realized that, how adult learning pedagogy. And today, if you look at it, all of us do scan reading, right? None of us read pages. If anything comes, all we do is scan reading, and quickly we get the gist of it. And that's where I was able to understand how instructional design, of course, in AppTech also, and over here, how instructional design engineering principles can be utilized for making learning more adaptive, getting better, long-term retention of knowledge in students, etc. And that's what I think was the change. I was based out of Malaysia in 2014, and that's when I decided to, come back to India and do something for the country and society. Of course, I started something along with one of my friends, into the startup space. But very quickly, I moved on, and I joined NASSCOM Foundation as the Chief Executive Officer, because I think at that time CSR rules had just come up. And while the tier 1, tier 2 colleges and students studying in the metros, etc., were getting good employment opportunities, it was the tier 2, tier 3, and other areas which are not getting the focus. And that's where at NASSCOM Foundation, I was able to drive, the CSR-based skilling as a project. And it was Reach Higher, where a lot of people collaborated, people from GenPact, people from the Sector Skill Council, ITES, and different people collaborated. And we created that unique model, which of course is today a norm for skilling of the underserved. And that's where I think working with Task for me, when I got headhunted for this profile, I saw it as an opportunity because I had fortunately worked with the leadership over here, the two tall leaders, the Honorable IT Minister, K.T. Ramarao Garu, as well as the Honorable Principal Secretary, Jayesh Ranjan Garu. I had worked with them during NASSCOM Foundation days, putting up digital literacy centers and other different initiatives that we ran for Government of Telangana. And I knew that this was a forward-looking state and there were too many opportunities. For example, when Task was created in 2014, it was a result of a survey where they found that less than 10% locals were employed. And that's what created the opportunity for me to join them, just about 4 years ago. I hope that answers your questions, Dr. Prasad.
Thank you, sir. I think you've touched upon a number of points which have built into this journey, and it is coherent with respect to what we have looked for in terms of employability as one goes along.
And one thing which I'd like to just mention, 30 seconds more, I think we should be open to newer experiences. We should be looking at challenges. And I think our youth would understand this the best. They go to the gym to make their body. And it is challenges that make your personality. So dear young friends, take challenges and go for them.
Excellent, sir. I think a few points which I'd like to connect to reinforce into the kind of questions which are coming in later is the points that you mentioned, which are connecting to the core thing of learning to learn, adaptability, agility, learning. If the institution or the environment instills in one that kind of a spirit, that whatever it may be tomorrow, one needs to learn. Learning to learn is a single word which kind of captures the whole thing. So this is one point. Second point, which I can see is the one, you took Vishnu Hari Dalmia sir's name. So the meeting with people who have done quite a bit in their life and then trying to get inspired, pick up ideas from what they say and see even if one thing can be instilled in one. I think that's one of the motives for doing webinar series, leadership conversations like this, for the public as well as for our own students. So I think that's also extremely important. And the third thing that you mentioned is this penetration into tier 1, tier 2, and then the other tiers. And this is what, I'm leading up to the second question. The second question is, there is a top rung of institutions, and then there is it is not a bottom of the pyramid, it is more than the bottom of the pyramid, where suddenly everything falls. So even if you take NIRF, placement rate, salary, what is there in the top 50, what is there in the next 50, even in such good institutions, suddenly the numbers fall. Not so much the placement percentages, but the salary rates suddenly fall. So I was imagining what would happen to the rest. And so in this context, there are so many solutions which are there. And here we come with the next question, that as per the Ministry for Entrepreneurship, Skill Development and Entrepreneurship, the performance of certain schemes which are centrally funded, there's a lot of money which has been spent on that, and which is meant to address part of this, leftover, people who have not been able to do something from their institution. While money has gone in, enrollments are pretty good, the outcomes are not coming the way regulators are looking at outcomes today. I mean, today, Ministry of HRD is talking about learning outcomes. I'm sure MSD is also talking about learning outcomes. And of course, one of them is employability.
Yes.
So it's not coming the way it is required. Sure, yes. I mean, we've got good data from about, up to 50%, but what happens at the stage where one wants to look further and go beyond that, so that this huge pool of talent becomes a dividend? So first, let me take it at the bottom half of the pyramid. So what do you think are the issues involved there? Because I think part of your work is targeted to that.
Correct. No, again, a very good question. And I think I'll answer the later part first. I think you yourself have said it, that these institutions, and I love using the word underserved. Underserved because these students are as bright, right? The infrastructure, etc., is available. But unfortunately, the right kind of trainers or things are not available over there, and that's why I call them underserved. And that's where it becomes very important for institutions such as yours and others who are there, to play a part in helping these institutions also. Coming to your question about MSD and PMKVY and Deen Dayal Upadhyay schemes, etc., across, you're absolutely right. While the enrollment ratios, etc., were good, but I think two things to realize in India is no one, because of the stigma attached to it, no one would like to spend money themselves to get vocationally trained. And I'm happy that NEP is now bringing vocational education right from grade 8 onwards, which is a very good thing to do, because then you would have both things running parallelly. The second thing is, if you look at it from the perspective of the industry itself, right? I think what happens is, while the institutions, which are the training machinery that is there, the centers who are running these programs, initially they were just being paid for skilling. Later on, the government changed the scheme and said, you must have them backed up with letters of, before you start the training itself, so that an industry recruits them. So there are many such schemes which have been brought in, but earlier on, because of which these numbers have been so dismal, have been towards that there was no, people who were being trained. And being from the development sector, I have seen examples, where the same set of people were being trained under different programs, and they were not interested in going for a job because they were happy coming to a center, having lunch, being there in an air-conditioned center and going back. I think the basic premises of why the skilling is required. Second thing, as I said in the beginning, do you have that aptitude for that industry? Are you passionate about that industry? If not, iteration rates will go up. There'll be an easy burnout. I think today, if you look at it, and as a result of which people joined and then they dropped out. So if you did a survey of all these schemes, after 3 months, the retention rate was quite low. Having said that, I would like to mention over here that we, for METI, the Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology, run the ESDM program, various programs under ESDM itself, which is part of the PMKVY scheme 1.0. And we skilled more than 17,000 plus students, out of which 12,000 plus were certified, and more than 8,000 plus actually got jobs, and they were, they continued in the jobs, etc. So I think we, of course, were given the numbers of Kerala also were added to us to train, seeing our performance were there. So I think it also depends on state to state, the focus that the governments are giving to these kind of schemes also, centrally and both at a national level also. Sorry, state level and a national level.
Excellent. So you've given an example of a particular program where the design and the approach was such that you got far superior results compared to what perhaps would have been there in what was otherwise done. Yes.
Yes. And I think today, if you look at all the programs under PMKVY 4 that is coming up, are tuned towards employability first before anything else. That's a crucial thing.
Excellent. So I think this brings us to the question which is about higher education and employability. And here we also have there's so many models which are getting implemented not only in India, but people who are ahead of us in UK, Australia, who've been doing a lot of these things. And there have been a variety of approaches used, many of which will be the modular type where, or a finishing school type of a thing, and some of them were trying to integrate it. Now, with about close to 4 crores who are into the higher education system,
Right.
this seems to be the first place which should be attacked, because for those who want to join corporate workforce, if this act comes out right, or far more efficient than what it is currently, I think the problem stands solved. However, due to convention, due to history, due to habits, institutions have been used to certain types of approaches. And today you've got the regulator, coming and saying you've got to have these learning outcomes for, graduate attributes for this kind of a program. And, how are you going to achieve it? So they leave it there. And then you've got a bunch of institutions which are trying to do something, and many who've not yet figured out what needs to be done. And on top of it, you've got the kind of problems that you address where you don't have interest, you join. And this happens in even the best of institutions. Then after 3, 4, 5 months, you just leave. So right from the design which takes care of it, right from an admission stage to the stage where one gets into something where one stays for a reasonable amount of time, I think this sort of a thing is an issue. Now, if you look at higher education, the sector, what would you suggest? Because there are so many issues, and they're very practical issues, and everyone has their own difficulty, and everyone is not a top-ranked institution. They don't have access to resources. In many cases, they're dependent on subsidies to fund what they want. So what is your framework? What is your suggestion for higher education, particularly not so well-known institutions?
Thanks for the question. I think the very first thing is, I think even before the education, I think it's important for us to identify that what are the skills that the person has, right? Today, in every institution, it is the 3 idiots story that is getting repeated everywhere, right? Whether you have a potential, whether you have the attitude, you have the aptitude, you have the competencies for a particular job, it is a herd mentality and you go for it. So I think first thing is career counseling itself becomes very important, and that should happen in the 10th, 11th, 12th onwards, or even if you ask me, it should happen in 9th and 10th, because that's where you are sowing the seeds of your future, whether you're taking medicine or you're going into engineering or what have you. Second thing is, I think what is important is for institutions to also realize that for employability is not a pill that you can have only in the final year. Most of the higher education institutions run placement programs only in the final year, right? While the student is having a lot of pressure of his exams, his projects, etc., and so on and so forth. But what should be done is, and what task does is, we sit over and above the curriculum itself, and we run our programs on employability skills, whether it's technical or personal impact or industry impact skills, in a laddered learning approach. For example, we run AutoCAD basic level in first year, second semester for engineering students, user level in second year, in first and second semester, and advanced level is run in the third year. Fourth year, we leave them to do their internships, their apprenticeship, and their projects and their exams. So by the time a student actually passes out, he's actually employable. Second thing is, you spoke about the various models. I think those models are something that we must replicate, and we must try to do it. In fact, Telangana launched with Alpula, along with CII, a program, and this was for the polytechnics, where a TVET kind of a model was run, and it was quite successful. So I think today, if you look at it, multiple such models are running across geographies, be it the vocational education and training in UK, in Germany, in Australia, as you mentioned, and of course, France also, right? So all these countries are running such similar programs. The biggest differentiator that is there amongst these kind of programs in India and the other countries are that there is a trade body in Germany that stands testimony to the quality of the delivery that happens in the industry, ensures that the students are taken care of, their insurance and everything else is taken care of. And they are the organization that does the contract between the student and the industry itself. So there's a third party which is mediating it. I think that is one role that is missing over here in India, because none of the industry bodies have actually taken that mantle and gone up to push the TVET model over here. I think that's a huge opportunity for us and higher education institution. Third thing I would also like to mention over here, and it's my humble request to all higher education institutions who are there on this call. And I think it's important for us to understand that the organized sector or the large industry are able to give us 1.2 crore jobs, but it is the MSMEs which are able to give us more than 11.27 crore jobs. And that is where I think our students should also focus. If they can do their internship or apprenticeship in smaller companies, MSMEs, etc., I think the number of things and the learning curve will be much higher than well-established organizations. I think that's where we need to help the education as educators. Our duty is to ensure that we are able to help guide our students to take up the right kind of internships and apprenticeships in MSMEs and startups, etc., which will actually change their entire outlook for the future.
Excellent. I think there are a number of key insights, I think, for higher education. First is, if I may put it, go into shaping rather than finishing.
Yes.
It means, work on it continuously.
Yeah.
Till the product reaches its end goal. The other thing I can observe is that one size does not fit all.
Absolutely.
Based on the context that you're in, you need to look at what is that model which you want to use, and it may differ between institutions also.
Correct.
And I think the third thing is that, and this comes up even more when they say that at PG level or greater, the level of outcomes, you need to frame yourself for uncertainty. So whatever you skills you have, you should know how to put it into an uncertain context. And I think your point about MSME, startups, and unorganized sector to that extent also is very pertinent rather than just the top-notch institutions. So I think these are all excellent points which can be looked at and brought into how planning is done at higher education.
Yeah, I probably would like to also mention one thing more over here is I think while there are different kind of pedagogical models, etc., right? I think the most important model for any kind of a learning which our faculty members have adopted now, thanks to the pandemic, is facilitation. Blended learning is here to stay. And in my 35 years career, I don't think any of my bosses have asked me any definitions. While we end most of our time, learning definitions. So some kind of an authentic assessment of students should be done. Hands-on assessments have to happen. It's like the IIM exam that people didn't want to do it, and they went out and they came back absolutely sozzled because they had a party and they didn't go for their examination. So when later on they were asked, they all claimed that the car in which they had gone to town got punctured, and therefore they couldn't appear for the exam because they had to push the car and they were very tired. So their professor rescheduled the exam after 1 week, and he got all these 4 people to sit in all different rooms. And the 1 mark question was about about a management topic, which was a 1 mark, and 99 marks question was which tire got punctured, right? So I think you need to understand the student psyche and then look at how you need to evaluate them. That becomes very, very important. I don't think justice can be done by a kind of a assessment that is happening right now, which is a fear of performance. Instead, education should be a celebration of learning.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think, the entire behavior, as you said, and you highlighted about the fourth year phenomenon, and that you let them live during that particular year is a good illustration of what is being said. I think we have many more questions, but I think just these three have taken time. I hand it back to Professor Rao for the next cluster.
Thank you very much. I want to, at this stage, acknowledge the fact that some of the important leaders who have joined for this session, we are with you, and I'm sure we are touching upon very, very important aspects through a leader who has been focusing on this for a couple of decades now. Sir, I have been enjoying this conversation. Given the fact that it is an extremely important topic to discuss, it will take more time. So I am seeking your permission indirectly that we have already crossed the scheduled time, and we might as well take a little more to handle this cluster number 2. But I'll keep myself occupied with a couple of questions, and rest I request the members who are around the screen to raise their hands and ask questions directly. Some of them who can raise their hands are Satyanarayan Mishra and Dr. Muhammad Asif Pasha. Both of you can raise your hands so that at an appropriate time we can open the mic for you. Before that, one question is, would you recommend any tools to do an impact assessment on the employability and skills? It is more at a practical execution level. What kind of tools that you recommend to do an impact assessment that on employability skills and employability as well as on skills, we are actually doing well? How do you do the reality check?
So I think one thing that we need to look at is that what is the objective of the entire exercise? Now, for example, if you look at the report itself that I've been referring to, throughout the entire discussion today, which is the skills report itself, they had interviewed what they called as, just once again, I forget the exact name, but yes, they have been running through the national employability tests that they have been doing, and they have also done the VBox national employability test. This was one of the parameters that they did. UNICEF, on the other hand, did a lot of other such similar kind of events also, where such side of surveys also. So I think today what needs to be understood is that more importantly than anything else, people should look at, when they look at employability, is how much of application a person has understood, right? How do you apply something is what is most important, and that is what should be checked in any kind of a survey. It should not be towards just, how good was the content, how good was the teacher. That will not help much. But as a student, am I able to understand the concept and know how to apply it in different circumstances? So that is what is most important, because when we talk about critical thinking skills or critical, decision making, etc., you need to apply the learnings that you have got, and that is what is important. Now, what kind of tools? Any kind of tools could be good, but as I said, if we have some kind of psychometric tools to understand right from the counseling stage itself, career counseling stage, then you move towards, when you finish your program, you should go ahead and apply for the apprenticeship and the internship schemes, etc. Over there, also tools are available which will help you choose the right kind of skills, that you should go for. I think that's there. Is there any tool that is available commercially? I'm sorry, I would not be able to, because there are so many of them that are available. I'll not like to take a name of out one of them.
Fair enough, sir. There are tools existing and we can use those tools, but it largely depends on, as you said, on the objectives of that particular exercise at an institute level or at a state or country level. Correct. I think each one of us has our role cut out. But sir, one question I would like to ask. Several institutions of higher learning, that's where the responsibility comes to a terminal stage, because after that, they are supposed to get into the job market, and if they fail, the institution would have failed. I mean, that's the equation, perceived equation. the responsibility of failure or responsibility of success is largely resting with the terminal qualification with where the student is pursuing in those institutions. Similarly, but a large number of these institutes would like to advertise that they've had 95% placement, 100% placement, 200% placement, so on and so forth. Similarly, governments and states and countries also would like to say that a large number of people are getting placed. I'm going to create jobs. In their manifestos, when they go for elections, they would do that. It is largely a political statement rather than a very invested in, emotionally sincere kind of a statement, because these institutions on one hand are starting this kind of exercise, as you said, only in the final year. If it were a sincere exercise, they would have started probably in the year number 1 in engineering college. Similarly, for governments, if it were a very sincere exercise, they would have gone much better than this 50% employability kind of a ratio that we have projected through various surveys. One such is VBox. Now, don't governments fall, sir? Similarly, in the way institutions don't fall, even if there is no employability or less number of students are getting recruited, the institutions are continuing and governments are getting elected back and back, again and again. What state at which we think that 50% of my brethren, 50% of the community, the youngsters in this country are not getting placed is going to be a bigger issue? Or do we have any similar situations to learn from in countries other than India?
So again, a very good question, Dr. Rao. And I think we need to split this into two parts. The first part is the education institution, and then we'll look at the other part of it also. But coming from the standpoint, I think today the position where we are, we need to ensure that India is not only a nation of job seekers, but also of job creators. So I think that is one thing that we need as education institution, we need to instill in our students is that apart from being an, you should not only end up being an employment seeker, but also a job giver also. And here I'm not only talking about, unicorns and unicorns and the startups, but I'm also talking about solopreneurs and micropreneurs. I think that is where we will be able to make a difference. That is point number one, because as I said, the organized sector versus the unorganized sector, and I spoke about the number of jobs. I think also our mindset. So I don't think there is a dearth of jobs. We don't have the right kind of attitudes, the right kind of people taking those jobs. I think that is what is more important to understand. There are enough number of jobs, plenty of jobs. In fact, today also, if you look at the task website itself under jobs and internships, there'll be at least about 200 plus jobs on offer, if not more, right? So I don't think there's a dearth of jobs anywhere. Now, talking about institutions, talking about their placements, I think I would probably say that institutions should not only talk about placements, they should also talk about their startups, right? Because that will help us understand how innovative is their pedagogy. What kind of programs are they doing? Is it a learn by rote where people just appear for exams and do well and rank ahead, or they are able to go up in the NIRF ranking because of innovation, because of research, and that's where it is. I think so. The youth also should not only look at the placements part of it, but also look at the other things which is there in the NIRF ranking, etc. I think it's important because you are going to spend the next 3 to 4 years over there. You should be able to choose your institution also. Having said that, I think also what students should do and colleges and higher education institutions should encourage is help get industry mentors. As Dr. Prasad rightly picked up, I was very much interested with Dr. Vishnu Hari Dalmia of the Dalmia Group. But yes, he was at that time someone I could look up to. Today, our youth are looking up to, unfortunately, the wrong kind of heroes. Now, today you have Skyroot in Telangana. Who could have imagined 20 years ago that a private young entrepreneur could send a rocket in the space, right? Our students are still wanting to go join the industry and do a 9-to-5 job. How do we as education institutions actually get people thinking differently, make them, the leaders in different kind of things where they are able to not only create a name for themselves, but of the institutions also and the country also.
Yes.
To move. And as far as governments are concerned, it's a well-known fact that, as I mentioned, the task was created because of only one reason, which was the locals' employability. And today, if you look at it, over the last couple of years, we have skilled more than 750,000 plus youth. We have given employment to thousands of students across at any, on our portal. The best part is, being a government organization, more than 500 plus organizations advertise their entry-level jobs on our portal. And that's where I think commitments are, of governments also. And very frankly, I think it is the vision of, the Honorable Minister, K.T. Ramarao Garu, and the guidance of Jayesh Ranjanji, which is made what task is today, where 718 plus colleges are actually partnering task, and students are benefiting from our programs.
Great, sir. Great. I think, thank you. That gives a great insight into what is the result-oriented partnership, whether it is governments or whether it is institutions and industry playing the role at both the stakeholder levels. I think it is that consciousness to give the result-oriented. I think that's the whole topic that we are discussing today. Getting to outcomes, the GTO approach that we apply on employability, which is the much needed discussion for the country and for the future of this country.
Yeah, I think I'll also like to mention a thing which is very, very important. I think the role that trade bodies, right, can play, industry can play, is phenomenal. Like right now, we are running a program because we all know that, there are institutions, and I am of the personal belief that while skills are needed, right, for good music, you need musicians. But at the same time, you need people like Beethoven, Bach, etc., who create music, which are the people who do the research part of it, right? And today, the importance is, how do you ensure that you do industrial research, not only just academic research? And that is where higher education institutions need to focus. Now, given the fact that most of our faculty members today have come straight from college without much of industry experience. I'm just generalizing it right now. Yes, of course, there are people from industry also who have come into academics. That is there, but most of the people. So it's important that we do some kind of faculty internships also. And along with HICIA, which is Hyderabad Software Enterprise Association, and an organization like Infosys, we have launched a program in Telangana called Project Drona, which is an immersive experience for the faculty members, where they are being skilled on the platform, on the latest technologies, and they will be mentored by the industry people. They're given life problems, industry life problems, etc., to solve. I think these kind of unique models need to be implemented in higher education institutions, across the country itself, so that faculty members are also, today they can write code, but whether the code is efficient or not is anybody's guess. And that is where we need to make changes.
Yeah, amazing inputs. Several points that you mentioned. Right kind of attitude is required. There are enough jobs out there for the asking. We need to deploy industry mentors in educational institutions, apart from immersive programs for the faculty members themselves, like the one that has been initiated by Government of Telangana. On the whole, it is to get people think differently, so that we are gearing up for this challenge. And this challenge is continuously there. But more importantly, as you mentioned, are we job seekers or are we job creators? I think more in terms of talking about it, that we are a nation of job creators as well. Taking pride that we are job creators will address the problem very well. But sir, on the other hand, even the parameters of measurement and evaluation and assessments at a ranking level, also we'll have to incorporate some of these factors like research and the value for startups that you've created on campus. Therefore, the whole assessment will have to change so that society thinks in that manner, and then all of us will try and focus on the most needed aspects. But I was also trying to ask, as part of the question that I asked, is in other countries, do they go by these kind of promises to make to the people on campus that we are going to have this kind of placement and we are going to put all our energies to create your placement, or it happens on its own because of a different learning curve that the institutions are already placed at? Probably that could be one of the reasons. But otherwise, in a country like India, the signals have to be different. The background from which we have started and the promises that we make are deep into the context of our country, and therefore it is a different situation altogether. Since since I am supposed to be the timekeeper, let me talk less and allow two of those individuals who have raised. Dr. Asif Pasha, you can please ask your question. Over to you, Dr. Asif.
Yeah, good evening, sir. I am Professor Dr. Asif Pasha, Director, CMR University, Bengaluru. The session is very, very informative, and the topic is apt according as per the need of the hour. And you have elaborated in all the aspects, and very, very useful for us to understand the synergies, how the task is playing in Telangana particularly, and other states of India as well. But my question is to you that any policy drafted or designed by any governments, any state governments or central government, particularly pertaining to the technical institutions, but they're not concentrating on the non-technical institutions such as the commerce, arts, humanities, the courses, UG, particularly the institutions offering these areas, but UG courses, particularly only the policies are derived or drafted to upskill the students of engineering, but that's what I'm seeing almost since 30 years in the country.
You are right, and probably if you look at it, I think it's important for us, and that's why probably today, if you look at it, people prefer sending their children to Ashoka University or a Plaksha University or one of the other universities, right? And of course, to universities such as ICFAI, etc. also, which are non-engineering based, right? Because they are sure that these universities also would be able to give a very, very good career to their ward. And that is what is important today. While there are institutions and there are different bodies, etc. Now probably Professor Sudhakar can help me out over there, because I'm not aware of any act as such. But I think UGC has got the things for that. And similar kind of rankings also exist for institutions such as ICFAI and the other such institutions also. And I think today what we need to understand is, what is most important is that very soon what you will see is we were talking about STEM, now it is STEAM, right? So already things are happening towards that. If I look at our industry requirements over here, now industry is telling me that I would like to train students in finance, right? Because anyway, if they join an Infosys, the biggest product is Finacle, which is a financial software for the banks, right? So I think what is most important is for us to understand that, look, we have to move away from the silos. Earlier, there used to be departments, there used to be schools, there used to be all these things. I think under the new education policy, everyone has to work together. It is to be interdisciplinary, multidisciplinary, as well as intradisciplinary. And that is how education will move. Dr. Rao, if you would like to answer the thing on the rules.
The most important takeaway from this response is that keeping in mind the changing ground, which is changing pretty fast, and then customizing our input on the scalability or on the training and employability eventually is going to be a very, very key action for the institutions as well as for the other stakeholders. And gone are the days where we used to focus on silos and we used to have a targeted job career kind of a preparation that used to happen. But now the targets are actually moving, and therefore Collaborative working, as you have mentioned, sir, the interdisciplinary, multidisciplinary, and intradisciplinary approaches are much in demand. There's actually no option for us other than focusing on that. That's pretty. I hope Dr. Asif Pasha is happy about that. Now, let me bring in Mr. Om Prakash Asawa to ask his question.
Yeah. Hi. Good evening. This is Om Prakash Asawa, financial consultant and insurance advisor, all over India, second rank. So I know K.T. Ramarao sir and Jayesh Ranjanji, and I met a couple of times. I think this is Shrikant Sinha also. They are doing so much work. They are day and night creating the Telangana into the world map. And amazing, the work since morning to evening, late evening also, amazing work. Awesome, unbelievable. And creating the world, Telangana into the world map. My question is, there are so many people from Hyderabad who are well settled in other countries, US, Australia, New Zealand. They are ready to contribute because they are very successful. They have earned billions of dollars and they want to contribute to our state. So I know dozens of people who are ready to come and say that, yes, how I am successful, how can I create other people to be an entrepreneur. So this is just sharing my idea where you can take action and then see that many employment we can generate. Thank you.
Sure. Om Prakash, yes, I absolutely agree with you. And definitely, in fact, today, if you look at it, the strategy of the Telangana government of moving to tier 2 and setting up IT towers over there and provide employability for the tier 2, tier 3 youth is based on the Telugu diaspora who are coming back. And Khammam, Karimnagar, and all these are just examples of people who are the diaspora from Telangana who have come back and wanted to create opportunities for the youth over there. So I think, yes, and this is a model that could be replicated across, because a lot of people across, are there in different, countries, and they want to contribute back. As I said, I was in Malaysia in 2014, and then I decided to come back and do something for the country and society, and here I am. Great.
I think that addresses, with the help of the fact that the government of Telangana is taking meaningful initiatives, and it's worth emulating for other states as well. That's pretty good. So the other question that we have is a little rudimentary, but I would like to still take it up so that you can help the participant understand. The participant would like to know, what are your initiatives to enhance English language skills for employability? This looks like pretty rudimentary, but extremely important for us in today's era.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I agree with you. In fact, it's very, very important. And as I said in the beginning, our students can understand English, spoken English, but it's definitely, when it comes to communicating back, either in oral or written, it's a challenge for them. And today, if you look at it, we definitely do run programs. So one of our programs is a very interesting program, which is along with an organization called as AA EduTech, which is run by none other than the ex-captain of the Indian cricket team, where he's teaching English and employability skills through cricket, which is Krishnamachari Shrikant. So we definitely do provide access to our students to the curriculum where English being a religion in India, cricket being a religion in India, English is taught through that, which is very, very fast and easy to learn. Apart from that, we have also signed up recently with an organization called UK Skills, where again we are providing access to students in a self-paced mode, where they can go and learn on their own on communicating back. In between, we also give access to our students to certain apps where students could actually, over a period of 1 year, communicate with the app and learn. So there are multiple such initiatives that we are running. And today, if you look at it, I think what is important is when we talk about the CAFR standards that are there, where A1, A2, B1, etc. is important. People should be able to. So reading, writing, listening, and speaking. All four. I think listening also is an important thing that people should focus on. So for English communication, if you look at it, while the market is huge across the world itself, and there are a whole lot of things that are happening over there. And in fact, if we talk about the global language learning market is $52 billion. And if you look at the number of learners, it is larger than the population of India. It is 1.6 billion worldwide language learners are there. And so that's where the language learning market is. And English being one of the largest segment over there. And I think it's important for people to pick up English, start conversing in English, keep on, of course, reading is not a habit any longer, but I think it's important for people to read also and fine tune their skills. I think what is important is not in the first couple of years, whether you are able to speak well, you're grammatically correct or not, but at least you should get into a habit of communicating. And that's where it's important that our students right from first year, if they have not done English in the schools, should do that.
Great. You have actually emphasized a lot on the importance of this market, the language learning market,
yes.
and the kind of levitation it provides in the job market to transit from job 1 to job 2 or job 10. I think that's extremely, and all the time it's going to be important, and it's supposed to be at an enhanced level as you grow up in your career ladder. So that's pretty good. So reading, writing, listening, and speaking, as you have beautifully mentioned. Thank you so much, sir, for that. And those initiatives also, which you have talked about, the collaborative culture of tying up with various other institutes which can provide technological inputs, like through app, you can listen and learn and interact and learn. And of course, with role models like, teaching English language skills through cricket is one of the biggest examples of any immersive program. And at the same time, it's fun to pick it up. I hope and I wish all of us get opportunities to make learning such a big fun, such a great fun, actually speaking.
True.
So one more question before we end. That is, looks like in the entire conversation we have touched upon this particular aspect, but I'm asking this again because this has been nuancedly put in and typed in by one of the participants, and it's important for us to take this up. How do we bridge the gap between making people employable and making them employed?
Okay.
In simple language, you can explain, sir.
Sure. So I think if you look at it, making people employable is just the beginning of it, right? Which is a job, correct? So you are creating everything, which, as you rightly said, today our institutions are creating only the person for the first job, but not for a career.
Right.
And that is what the basic difference is. When we are preparing someone for a career, you are giving them not only the skills, as I said, instead of a T, it'll be a pie. From a pie, moving ahead, it is envisaged to be a U, where you have AI, ML, etc. skills right at the bottom, and the two arms would have multiple domain and other skills, right? So this will be a lifelong learning. And that's where when you prepare someone for employment versus employability, it is for a career and not just for a job.
Great. It is for career and not just for a job, either at stage number 1 or stage number 10. At every stage, it is going to be lifelong learning. From T to pi to U, that is the shifting focus, where the enablers and institutions and agencies and trade bodies, all of them will have to focus on as far as as far as developing them, moving from making what is employable to making them employed. Great, sir. I think that answers very well on a larger continuum of life and career as a journey. Thank you so much, sir. One last question, because that has come in just now. Let me see if that is making sense. Does NEP focus on assessing the students' learning and emotional needs during their study in schools and colleges? I think the psychologists and counselors need to be consulted periodically to support parents, teachers, and others involved in the education of the students. We need to understand the social, emotional, behavioral, and learning needs of the student to become a successful student, also to enhance the employability skills. Your comment on this?
Okay. Yeah. See, very frankly, if you make learning fun, right? And as I said, not a fear of performance, but a celebration of learning, then automatically the things go away, right? And that is what is key today. Today, people are under the fear of performance. What will happen if I fail in this exam? I will not be able to do things, right? And it's very simple. If you look at it, people who have got placed, and I'm sure all the people from higher education institutions would agree with me, people who have already got placed, they don't give too much emphasis. All that thing is, theek hai, pass ho jaunga, theek hai. And that's what it is, because they are guaranteed a job. Because today, unfortunately, our education system is being used only to give a job. And that's where the pressure is today. And that's where probably, if you recollect the picture that I had put in, where you had a turbo chart tortoise moving, that is what brings in the frustration, the burnout. And second thing, of course, if you have done an assessment of your, not only your skills, but your competencies, right? For example, being part of the AVGC Sector Skill Council, as an advisor to the national government, one of the things that we have recommended is a test, right, in the 6th grade itself, to identify people who are more interested in the creative field, right, so that they can be groomed accordingly. NEP is going to provide many such options moving ahead. And that is what I think will actually remove the drudgery of education itself. The rote learning, etc., is what creates pressure. Yes, it is important to have psychologists, etc., because it is important today. Today, if I look at US, 1 in 3 people are suffering from depression. And, so it's important. I would definitely say that, yes, we should have proper kind of counseling, etc., available. But in fact, in 2019, when I joined TASK, one of the first faculty development programs that we ran was for faculty members itself. How do you counsel your students? How do you identify someone who is, who needs help? And we as educators should be ready to tell the people that, look, it's okay. It happens. You need help. Please go seek help.
Yeah.
It is no longer a stigma. We have to help them come out and get to the right kind of places where they can get the right kind of help. And there are many such institutions, in Telangana, definitely I know, and thanks to my NASCOM Foundation days, of course, I know a lot of others also across India who are into this space. So my suggestion is that, yes, any student who is feeling that they need help, support, please reach out to help, different kind of avenues of help, and do that. I think it's also important for me to mention over here that one of the biggest thing that has happened with online, and of course, with technology, whether it's a simple knife which can cut fruits or carve a fruit or do multiple things, including an operation, can also commit a murder. And that's where I think with technology coming in, cyber security also becomes very important. And that is where cyber bullying and all these things are also very, very important. I think it's important for us to understand that, yes, there are avenues where you can reach out to people in case you have been cyber bullied or any kind of cyber kind of a thing has been done, whether it's phishing or something else. And please, please, please do not share your passwords with anyone. I think that is not only in your college life, but also in the future when you are working. I think it becomes more important that you are aware about cybersecurity, because you could become the conduit through which any hacker could target your organization. So please, 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 become cyber aware and cyber smart.
Great, sir. Great. Thank you very much for that useful response. I want to quickly ask Professor Prasad, he has any point to make before we wrap it up, Professor Prasad?
Yes, I think the point which I wanted to make was that right now the emphasis is on placement, employability, assessment, etc. The amount of attention which has going into design approach to getting people employable is not being discussed much in any avenue. If you take higher educational institutions, the game is to get into NIRF, NAC rankings. Okay, and all size, everyone is treated the same. So the entire energies of the faculty and the academic fraternity are going into that.
Correct.
Okay, so there needs to be something there which pivots out. And well, I think that's a topic for another discussion, perhaps.
Yeah, no, but you're absolutely right. I think what is important is, yes, these rankings, etc., are just the beginning. It is just a benchmark that you are there. But I think you need to go beyond it. And probably, I think, being based out of Hyderabad, I'll take the typical example of one of the institutions, a management institution that is over here in Hyderabad, ISB. They didn't look at any of this, but they went much beyond that. Today, they are considered amongst the top management institutions in the world itself. I think that's where it is. While these are important, but it should not be a tick in the box. It should be the beginning point and not the end point.
Great, great. Thank you very much. I think it's very, very important that a design thinking approach has not been witnessed in this country with respect to solving this problem of employability. If you don't have that kind of design thinking, and the results will be only sporadic or accidental or one-time performance kind of a thing, rather than a model to actually go by. Very, very pertinent point by Professor Prasad.
Absolutely.
And sir, thank you so much for giving us this ringside view of what's happening across the country and also what's happening within Telangana vis-a-vis our competitors, in the sense countries other than India, what they are doing and what are the better things that we can learn from them. Overall, this conversation of 100 minutes has been pretty useful, sir. I confess this is acknowledged by everyone that this is an extremely important topic. While we don't have answers to many questions, we keep discussing and we keep creating this awareness of the areas that we need to focus. And then slowly we get there. The faster we get, that's better. But at least awareness is extremely important to realize as a stakeholder, say, for example, educational institutions, what do they have to do? A set of few things. Similarly, the agencies and the government and other bodies from industry, their roles are also cut out. I think the discussion has been pretty useful for all the stakeholders. And more importantly, those youngsters who are going to go back and look at this video and the conversation, they will also feel extremely happy that a bunch of few seniors are sitting down to discuss on the most important thing that impacts the youngster, that is themselves. And in turn, it's going to shape the future of this country. And that is the whole purpose of these leadership series talks that we are hosting with eminent people like you, sir, sitting on the 99th leadership conversation this evening. I want to very quickly give a wrap up of the important points that you have mentioned for the benefit of those who joined a little late. Very simple. Start very early. Skilling has to be taken very seriously, and it has to be started pretty early, right from the day one of your college, if it is a higher education institution. But otherwise, the awareness levels and the focus will have to begin right at school level itself. For example, one of those tests that you conduct to understand how many of the students are going to go into creative fields and how many of them are going to get into other fields. I think that kind of awareness and reality checks, if done early, then career planning and also getting to understand if they are there in it will dawn on them very early, and it's going to be useful. The other point is institutions will have to see what is the aptitude of each and every student with a particular industry that they would like to move into. It is not just my willingness to get into the industry, but my aptitude, and also whether I have the personality to actually have a long career to do well in that particular industry. I think that's where institutions play a very big role. Another practical measure that you're given is not those definitions types, the 3 idiots type of definitions, but I think how much you have applied kind of a yardstick will help the institutions and also the students indirectly to see whether they are going in the right direction or not. Apart from the available tools that we have, like psychometric tools and so on and so forth, application-oriented focus in assessing your own journey of development, of transformation, of growth of the student as well as the institution is a very, very good suggestion. Making the students open to newer experiences is another dear point that I love. And that's where the philosophy actually dawns on these important key players to look at. I've heard somewhere, and I keep saying these things, that very good institutions, if they are invested in the future of the students and future of this country, will focus on 3 important aspects. That is bringing in randomization in our teaching learning process. And the second one is bringing in a little bit of wilderness when we are training the students or when we are training the participants or learners. And the third one is to create that immersiveness. Immersiveness is possible in various ways other than just projects and internships. Several immersiveness programs can be done. I think that helps towards gravitating towards what is called making them open to newer experiences, and that's where you learn. And eventually, as you have so nicely emphasized, education should be celebrated for its learning and not just should be the result of a fear of performance or the fear for performance. I think that will be possible only when we have these steps beautifully taken up at the right time by treating each student as one entity rather than having a mass program or batch kind of programs that we have. N is equal to 1 is absolutely applicable here. And the other thing is, when you mentioned about aptitude, when you mentioned about, even Professor Prasad has mentioned that we need to sit down and understand that there are different kinds of solutions required for different institutes. And within that institute, also different segments of students. All of us acknowledge that this country is quite diverse, that this country is quite plural. But when we come to providing solutions, our solution is not actually customized in so many diverse methods. Our action plans are actually generic. And that's where I think your beautiful point, if you can't stand the sight of blood, should you become a doctor or join an army? Very, very strong point. I think we need to test that out and see what is good for, because everyone did not become a doctor and everyone did not become an army cadet to serve the country. You need to see where it is going to work for him, what suits for the personality, and then accordingly move up the skilling crucible in that direction for the student. The another important takeaway, which I cannot forget, which you have cited out of your own personal description of your own journey, which is very beautiful for us to remember, is 17 plus 4 plus full stop, vis-a-vis 17 plus 4 plus 40, which is an indicative measure of your mind that is yearning for lifelong learning. I think all of us will have to go for that 17 plus 4 plus 40 kind of calculation, that kind of mindset and orientation, so that we do well and we do extremely well in our life and career. So these are some of the important points that you have mentioned, sir. And I will take one more minute to just add this beautiful thing. All education institutions are trying their best. There is a kind of a competition, definitely, and the sense of competition, assuming that the perception is changing, is making us lose our spin on the agenda of the education institutions. I think with help of leaders like you, as you have mentioned, getting better industry mentors into the education institutions, trying making it more practical, more immersive, and focusing on the soft skills, on the hard skills, right at the early stage. For example, ICFAI is one of those institutions where we started soft skills in the year number 1, semester number 1 in our engineering program to start with, or management program to start with. It is an integral part of what we teach, and it is not an addendum. I mean, it is a course, and that's been the culture, that's been the overriding focus that we have made. And today, with help of leaders like you and all the 99 leaders who have spoken today, we only very humbly submit that ICFAI is trying to make the Indian industry very efficient and competitive by providing good human resources on one hand. Before that, ICFAI is trying to make the younger minds more brilliant. I think that's a responsibility of an institution. I'm sure all of us are doing that. Young minds making not only more brilliant, but also anti-fragile, so that they withstand and any hardships that they are going to face, they're going to withstand those things and become stronger. And thereby, probably, we are trying to make Indian homes a little more stronger and healthier. And thereafter, of course, it leads to what is called making the Indian society much more responsible, much more humane than what it should be. I think with these few words, I want to thank you so much for your time, energy, and expertise for making this whole discussion happen, and also made us so immersive in the participative discussion that you have allowed us to do today, sir. Thank you so much on behalf of everyone.
So thank you very, very much. In fact, it was a pleasure for me, and congratulations on this 99th episode. And I'm sure you'll be going ahead and with many more episodes, and the work that you're doing in ensuring that the higher education standards are raised and people ask the right kind of questions, and the youth, their minds are also directed towards thinking differently, I think is phenomenal. So thank you very much, Dr. Prasad and Dr. Sudhakar Rao, for inviting me to be part of this August 99 team. And of course, in front of such August gathering, I hope I have been able to just do justice to the topic at hand. And thank you for permitting me to share some of my own thoughts. As I said, this is too wide a topic, but yes, some thoughts can trigger more thoughts. And, if you have to, go fast, you walk alone. But if you have to go together, you walk together. And that's where, go far, you have to walk together. So I think that's the journey that you have started. So compliments on that, and look forward to attending many more such leadership.
Wonderful, sir. Here is the invite for you. The requirement, on one hand, the ability to learn and being open, we'll always keep that as a student. An institution has to be a student always. We firmly believe in this. We have derived this and learned from this and practiced from what our founder has taught us. So this is not going to go away. It is part of our DNA. And our learning teaching process will continue. This is a knowledge sharing session. This is a motivational session. This is a series to trigger leadership roles and aspirations for youngsters who are listening to all of us. We owe it to them.
True.
We owe it to them. And the energy with which we have conducted these sessions for 99 times, or 99 Fridays, we are going to conduct it for another 99 Fridays if everything works very well. And ladies and gentlemen, I take pride in mentioning to you that the century session, the 100th session, is going to be on April 14th at 6:30 p.m. And it is going to be addressed by the popular Dr. Devi Prasad Shetty of Narayana Hrudayalaya or Narayana Health Group, as you call it. He's a very big personality and a great motivator himself, an amazing leader who has done several path-breaking and stalwart kind of initiatives that he has taken. He's going to be a great leader for us to listen to, interact, and learn from. So I invite wholeheartedly each one of you to come back and join us at 6:30 p.m. on April 14th. We will have the link shared on the social media and also by email and WhatsApp to all of you. And we will feel very happy to introduce you to Dr. Devi Prasad Shetty on April 14th. With that promise, we take a break here And it's more than 100 minutes that we have discussed. Once again, I thank all of you for your patient listening. Listening is a great skill. Some of you have raised very, very pertinent questions, but let's continue to learn for leadership every single Friday, not only every single Friday, every single day, and hope to make this country a brighter, better, responsible, and healthier country that we aspire for. Thank you all, and good night.